What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. And with road signs being over, and until I come up with a better name for some of this shit, I'm going to say welcome back to the Clusterfuck. This is going to be basically Wrestlemania week recovery, everything that I've missed out on commenting on in the past couple of days. Guys, I was gone to the States until Wednesday. Most of you know, or at least some of you remember, the brief stint I had on here on YouTube with doing the No Holds Barred show with STEPHIE Sunshine. I had the fortune of going back to the States to hang out with my good friend STEPHIE Sunshine once again for WrestleMania weekend, and due to US Airways being complete cuntbags, I ended up in the States an extra day, so I only got home on Wednesday. Now, I didn't take any notes when I was in Springfield. I was hanging out. I was doing my friend thing. I was doing my WrestleMania thing. I don't take notes during WrestleMania at the best of times, do I? Because as most of you know, if I'm not traveling, I do the big annual Spaz's WrestleMania barbecue here at Casa de Spaz. So I've had to go back and just, you know, go through no DQ rundowns and things like that, just so that I don't forget anything that has happened in the past, I don't know, 72 hours or so, maybe more. I don't know what's going to happen on SmackDown tonight, because if I added that on here, this would be a hell of a long video, and you guys don't want to listen to me ramble that long, do you? Let's talk about WrestleMania weekend. I was down, like I say, in the States, hanging out with STEPHIE Sunshine, who is amazing. So I'm going to say here and now, hon, thank you for an amazing weekend. It was great to get our wrestling nerd on once again. It's been too long. We're going to do it again very, very soon. But also, she had the WWE Network, which meant I was glued to a TV for a lot of this weekend. Oh, yes, I was. Among other things, WWE Network was marathoning the WrestleManias. So, yeah, big couch indent in the shape of my ass, because that's just how we do. We don't have the network up here in Canada, and I said when it came out that, you know, why would I get the network? I watch enough wrestling week to week to week anyways, which is absolutely true. If I want to have any semblance of a life, I shouldn't get the network. Is that not the case? But the network is pretty cool. Like I said, I was down there watching it through an Xbox, and it's pretty user-friendly, and like the most problem I had with it was sort of a 1 or 2 second delay here or there in the live feeds, and that was it. So it's all good. So because of that, I also got to watch the entirety of the Hall of Fame. So why don't we start there? The only other place I could start would be if I was actually in New Orleans doing something like Access. But if you are the television viewing audience, your first taste of WrestleMania weekend is the Hall of Fame, is it not? A great class. A phenomenal class. Lita had the most, I guess, relevant induction to me personally, like, as far as, you know, very personal bias, who am I a fan of? And, you know, when you're listening to somebody make their speech, you want to listen to a speech where you know everything they're talking about. She was inducted by Trish Stratus, which only makes sense. Trish Stratus and Lita, being the Rock Austin of women's wrestling, paid great respect to people like Arn Anderson. Had a toast, actually, with Arn Anderson and Rey Mysterio in the middle of her speech, which was absolutely great. Talked about a lot of things. Talked about everything that I remember, her time with Edge, her time with the Hardy Boys, just a great induction. Carlos Colon, who I know literally nothing about, didn't really interest me that much. Being inducted by Primo, Epico, and Carlito was cool. It was cool to see Carlito, who kind of looks like he's rocking a little bit of a pedophile mustache, but we won't hold that against him. He came out and he started off his induction bit with, you know, it's nice to be in front of an audience bigger than an auditorium, which, you know, if you open up with a bad joke about yourself is kind of sad, but it was still cool to see Carlito. He still got the insane hair and whatnot, and it's nice to see Primo and Epico after seeing them be lost matadors for so long. So that was kind of cool. Mr. T's speech. Guys, did you know Mr. T loves his mama? He spent 5 minutes telling us how he loves his mama, and rambled a lot. I mean, I wasn't around. I wasn't watching wrestling when WrestleMania 1. I was, okay, not fair. I was around when WrestleMania 1 happened. I was 3 years old when WrestleMania 1 happened. But I wasn't watching wrestling at that time for sure, so, and I never watched the A-Team. I saw the remade movie just recently, a couple years ago, which did not have Mr. T in it. So I really, in all retrospect to my personal experiences, didn't care that much. I know that he has significance, and I will not take that away from him. He was part of the very first WrestleMania, and the second, interacting with the likes of Piper and Hogan and all those guys. So he has significance, obviously, but I personally just don't care. Then we got into basically Rehab Mania, and I really hate to say that. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but Jake and Hall and Warrior basically all saying that our lives have been shit for a while, and now we're back, and thanks DDP and all. And in all seriousness, you know, great job DDP getting Scott Hall back up and going, getting Jake the Snake Roberts back up and going. I don't know if DDP had anything to do with Warrior. Somebody tell me in the box below if that's the case. But it was three guys basically telling, obviously they all have their individual stories, but telling very similar stories. I don't know what to say. Not that they weren't meaningful, not that they weren't, you know, again, like tug at the old heartstrings type thing, but they were, it's three very similar success stories all going into the Hall of Fame at the same time, and with what happened later in the week, we're going to talk about that a lot more, obviously, but it was very, very down and then up mood for the Hall of Fame. But, you know, I'm happy for all these guys. They all deserve it. Like, I may not have been watching Jake the Snake in his heyday. I may not have been watching The Warrior in his heyday. But, like, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, NWO, or The Click, or anything like that. Rivalry with Shawn Michaels. Fan-fucking-tastic. Lita, my favorite diva of all time. And let's talk about how great the women's division got this week alone. But, honestly, I know Warrior was the star of this show, and I get it. I really, really do. My favorite induction, even more than Lita, whether you can believe that or not, was the induction of Paul Bearer, because it was done so respectfully, and it was done by Kane instead of The Undertaker, which, on one hand, kind of seems a bit off, but at the same time, doesn't, because I can't see Undertaker making that speech. And Kane, to his credit, did a phenomenal job inducting Paul Bearer. His sons came out. His sons didn't have much of an acceptance speech because they, you know, they're accepting on their father's behalf. So, you know, very brief, thank you for celebrating our father, and that was basically it. And then Undertaker did his big salute at the end, which you knew was going to happen. It was a phenomenal moment. That moment alone, never mind what happened later at WrestleMania, Undertaker coming out to salute Paul Bearer at the Hall of Fame was a phenomenal WrestleMania moment in and of itself. So, great job, Kane. Love seeing Lita go in. Love seeing all these other guys with their success stories. The guys that I don't have as much investment in, like Mr. T and Carlos Colon. It's not out of disrespect. Please understand that, guys. It's just, I won't sit here and say that I know as much. And I won't sit here and speak as if I know as much about them. Is that fair? The other upside, if you want to really call it that way, to being somewhere where there was the WWE Network was I watched the entire 2-hour WrestleMania pre-show. Now, if you asked me to watch it again, I would sooner that you come to me face to face and press a spinning drill bit to my temple, but I did it. The pre-show, the panel on the pre-show kept changing. There was Josh Matthews, there was Mick Foley, there was Shawn Michaels, there was Jimmy Hart, there was Alex Riley for some ungodly reason. There was some football guy, I don't know. It was mostly boring as fuck, and they were just blabbing in between promotional video packages, which is fine. I mean, it's a hype show, which is great. The football guy was also on the pre-show to Raw the next night, and I don't get it. If this is the guy that they're talking about that's making the transition from football commentary to wrestling commentary and then wants to be a wrestler eventually, I already don't care. How's that? On the pre-show, we had the Tag Team Championship match, which was Ryback versus... Why are you beeping me while I'm doing a video? Always. Always. You guys know, this happens without fail. My phone is on silent. Something else has to make noise, does it not? Ryback versus the Usos versus the Real Americans versus Los Matadors. Ryback and the Matadors were useless in this match. It sounds cliche, but I'll say, like, they didn't do anything horrible. They did their bit, I guess. Matadors did a couple flips, a couple nice high-flying spots, I will admit. It obviously got down to the Real Americans and the Usos, which was great, because the crowd at WrestleMania was great. And when you had just these two teams going at it, like, chant for chant with the crowd, you know, we, the people, versus Us, Oh, and it was a great moment. And then the Usos won, which for a moment I was against, because I really did think that a great team like the Real Americans deserved to hold the tag team championships at least once, even if it was for a day, even if they lost them the next night on Raw. You know, not that that's typically something you want to happen, but I would have accepted it if they won them for a night and then lost them on Raw. But what we got instead was a shoving match between the Real Americans after the match was over. Congratulations to the Usos, by the way. They're phenomenal. Don't let me take anything away from them. I just wanted the Real Americans to get a rub, realistically, because I want to see Cesaro get a rub. But we will get to that shortly, will we not? Obviously, they have a bit of a shoving match. Zeb Coulter tries to keep them together. He tries to put... I think Swagger tried to put Cesaro in the ankle lock, if I'm not mistaken. And then he got swung, and then Zeb Coulter freaked out, and, you know, he's getting swung. Zeb's kind of doing this with his head as Swagger's getting swung, and it's great. It's the dissolution of the Real Americans, and, you know, Cesaro's over like Rover, and he's going to be a babyface soon, and it's fine. It'll do. Triple H versus Daniel... Okay, no. I forgot a whole segment here. The opening segment of WrestleMania, any other pay-per-view, any other time that opened up with a 25-minute talking segment would have been the death knell as far as any person in the YWC is considered, wouldn't it? Like friggin' The Rock opening WrestleMania last year by himself, and 27. Was it 27? Yeah, it was 27 when and then he fucked over The Miz and Cena, and yeah, that was 27. Then we had 28 and 29, Rock versus Cena, 2 times in a row, 2 years of our lives that we wish we could get back, do we not? Anyways, opened up with Hulk Hogan, obviously, being the, you know, what you doing, brother, welcome to WrestleMania, brother. I'm not going to do too many brothers, because that impression ultimately goes to my boy Deluxeman. Everybody should sign up and subscribe to him and all that. He's then interrupted by The Rock. Or, sorry, he's not interrupted by The Rock. He's interrupted by Austin, who comes down and talks about how every time he's in the ring with somebody at WrestleMania, somebody gets their ass kicked, asks the crowd if he wants, or if they want him to kick the crap out of Hogan. And if they had done that, it would have been sad, because Hogan can't take a beat down these days, can he? So that would have been sad. Then they're both interrupted by The Rock, and The Rock kisses both of their asses. The Rock looks like the new kid at the table in this conversation, doesn't he? He kisses ass to Hogan, kisses ass to Austin. You know, they all do their catchphrases. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. So what you gonna do when WrestleMania and Hulk Hogan and Austin and The Rock and the Brahma Bull and the Rattlesnake and the Hulkster and the 24-inch pythons all run wild? It's great. It was harmless. Because it's WrestleMania, because of who these guys are in the history of WrestleMania, it's absolutely forgivable and not even offensive in the slightest. But it was great. It was a great moment. I do have to say, it was 25 minutes. I'm just saying. Like I said, luckily I had good company. We were joking around and we were talking about Hogan potentially dropping a leg on somebody and just evaporating into dust, a la the Great Khali. I just threw out my notes before I talked about the Triple H Bryan match. So, I'm going to say this. The Triple H Bryan match was awesome. Sadly, it was predictable. Triple H's entrance was awesome with sort of, I guess they were going for like a Greek god type thing with all the gold and all the nymphs, you know, around him, serving him chalices and taking off his armor and whatnot. It was fine. It was all good. They had good music. They had good presentation. Triple H gets some pretty not like somebody like The Undertaker or Cena most years, but Triple H has had some really cool entrances the past couple of years. Most of them involving that big skull entranceway, and it's all good. It was a great match, and you know what? You know, obvious statement is obvious. It's Triple H and Daniel Bryan. Triple H is awesome. Daniel Bryan is awesome. Daniel Bryan's also over like Rover, so the crowd is already exhausting themselves. The ending was so predictable, and this was my problem with Daniel Bryan going into WrestleMania, guys, is like, from the minute they laid out the story, when they're like, okay, if Daniel Bryan, who's injured, can get past Triple H, then he'll be in the triple threat match, where he might have a chance at the title. You're like, yeah, Daniel Bryan's leaving with the belt. Like, shut up. Get it over with. I want to see some other shit. But no, with that being said, I'm happy for Daniel Bryan. He won this match. He looked fantastic. Triple H, much as most people will not give him credit for, made Daniel Bryan look like an absolute monster in this match. The post-match beatdown of Daniel Bryan was phenomenal. because he already had a sore arm. You know, beat the hell out of his arm with the chair, leave him absolutely limping out of the ring like a limp, lame dog, and Stephanie McMahon being a heel and looking fantastic in... I don't know what the hell her outfit was, and it was ugly as sin. It was a travesty of clothing, but despite that, she still looked phenomenal, because it's Stephanie McMahon. It's what she does, and she's a better heel than Triple H, and even I will admit that, even though I'm a Triple H mark. But it did what it needed to do. I can get over the fact that it's predictable because it's going to a greater end, but it was damn predictable. I don't have these matches in order, guys, so if I mess up the order, somebody's going to call me on it in the box below. I beat you to it. I don't have these matches necessarily in order. Shield versus the Outlaws was as good as it could have been. I mean, everybody reacted, why would you turn them all face, da-da-da-da, we wanted this triple threat match, and I was the same way. But this was what it was. This was a glorified 3-on-3 squash match, which is exactly what it needed to be for the Outlaws to look phenomenal. It was a quick squash. The Shield looked boss. The Shield coming out with the sort of guerrilla soldier type masks added a great little bit of intrigue. You guys know that whether a match is good or bad, I always have time for a match where I can tell the people in it are having a great time and genuinely enjoying themselves. And since they've turned face, the Shield is doing exactly that. They look like fanatics in the ring now. And now that they're face, which means they can interact with the audience instead of pretending to hate the audience, they are having a blast. And they know they are on the top. Oh, as far as anybody that's not actually in a title picture, other than that, they are on the top of the mountain right now, like side by side with the Wyatts, I guess, but they know where they stand, and they know they've got a big chunk of history already in their pocket in, what, their second year? Match was great. Team Old Man was Team Old Man. Kane and the Outlaws did what they do. The finisher, the double, triple powerbomb to the Outlaws, was a phenomenal sight. It was one of those things where you're going to go on the website the next day, and you're going to see the highlight photos of WrestleMania. That is one of the things you're going to see. You're going to see all of the Shield holding up both of the New Age Outlaws and slamming them to the mat without a second's hesitation or without a single botch, which is nice. Nice that Rollins got the pin, too, because everybody says, you know, Ambrose should be the main event. That's what the YWC thinks. Roman Reigns is going to be the main eventer because that's who WWE wants to push. So Seth Rollins gets lost in the shuffle. So it intrigued me, and I was really happy because Seth Rollins, I believe I've said this in videos before, reminds me a lot of Jeff Hardy. So that familiarity helps me get behind, not that I'm not behind the other two, but it helps me really, really get behind Seth Rollins' character. So it was nice, it's a nice little touch to see Seth Rollins get the pin. And by the time he's going for the pin, the other two are already posing victorious on the turnbuckle, because that was a phenomenal sight as well. You see somebody going for the pin, and his partners are so convinced of their victory that they're already posing victorious on the turnbuckles. That's an amazing sight. Great match. Everybody said, you know, the Outlaws shouldn't be at WrestleMania, Kane shouldn't be at WrestleMania. I agree. Like, they're past their prime, for sure. But for something like this, where they just need to go in there, you know, do some catchphrases, do some signature offense, and then get their asses handed to them, they did a fantastic job. And at the end of the day, I'm an Attitude Era fan. It's always cool to see the Outlaws, and Kane is fine. I get corporate Kane looks like Al Bundy without a shirt on, just awkward with dress pants and elbow pads. And Kane should retire. I'm just saying. The Andre Battle Royal was cool too, and it wasn't. They were comparing it to the Royal Rumble, but the Royal Rumble has a lot of jobbers in it. Like the Andre Battle Royal had mid-carders and low mid-carders in it, but even the low mid-carders in it, like 3MB, like Justin Gabriel, like Damian Sandow, Tyson Kidd, are still solid talents that I want to see. And if it was the Royal Rumble, you would know for a fact, Tyson Kidd comes to the ring, he's not going to win. He's going to flop around for a couple seconds, he's going to job to somebody. Something like this, we don't know how much importance the winner was going to be given at the end of the day, other than, hey, here's your trophy, here, have a happy, feel-good moment. A couple years ago at a WrestleMania Battle Royal, they gave the win to Yoshitatsu and didn't do anything with it. So, something like that, it was very possible that they could have given somebody like Justin Gabriel, or Tyson Kidd, or somebody along those lines a victory. It wouldn't have meant much, but it was very different from a Royal Rumble in that perspective. Dolph Ziggler looked boss in this match. I was fully behind him the whole way. I was really thinking this was how they were going to break him out of his losing streak, or break Damian Sandow out of his losing streak. Kofi Kingston got his spot in. Kofi Kingston got his spot where it's like, he got thrown out of the ring, landed flat on his back, which I'm pretty sure wasn't the brightest move or brightest booking decision in the world, but it was all for the fact that his feet landed on the steps, his feet didn't touch the floor outside the ring, so he wasn't eliminated, he got back in. The thing about Kofi Kingston, he's becoming the new, like, Mr. Royal Rumble, and it's just like, okay, Kofi's gonna do something goofy, and then he's gonna get eliminated. So, ooh, that was a nice spot. Okay, you've done your bit. Fuck off. They gave this match to Cesaro, and it was phenomenal. Not only was it phenomenal because I think it was a great choice, because Cesaro really does need to be handed something more than the team that he was in, but the way they did it, they wanted to pay homage to Andre the Giant. Big Show wanted to, or spoke very much about his feelings about Andre and about his feelings about being in the Andre Battle Royal. So you have to imagine in his own mind that that the Big Show wanted to pay homage to Andre the Giant as well. Now, all of us were scared that that was going to mean that he was going to be handed this match because he's big, like Andre. But Andre's biggest WrestleMania moment is getting slammed by Hogan. Now, if Big Show in that way wanted to pay homage to Andre, would he not play the Andre role? And he did that. He did that quite well, because the way this match ended was between Cesaro and the Big Show, and Cesaro scooped, carried, and tossed the Big Show out of the ring. It was very reminiscent of Hogan Andre. Now, am I saying by any stretch of the imagination that Cesaro and Big Show are as big names as Hogan and Andre? Obviously not. But it was as close as you could get to a perfect, to the T tribute to Andre. And you know what? Cesaro got the win that he needed, the impressive moment that he needed, and if Big Show really, really wanted to pay tribute to Andre, I think what he did in this match did that, and I thought that was really cool. I really love that the WWE did not give the win to the predictable guy. Big Show, what's Big Show gonna do? Honestly, I'm not even saying that because I hate the guy anymore. It's just, what's he gonna do? They're gonna put the belt on him again? Sure. He's gonna come out and be a heel, and then 2 weeks later come back as a face, 2 weeks later come back and be a heel, 2 weeks later come back and be a face, and cry and get fired, and come back the following week and be a face again. That's the Big Show, isn't it? Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. I don't have much to say about this match because I spent way too much time just watching it and enjoying it. I do have to give a lot of credit that I didn't think I would be able to give on this video. You guys know how I feel about Cena. You guys know how I feel about Cena. You know the cautions I had going into this match. Even though I predicted it was going to be one of the best matches on the card, and it was. To both these men's credit, this was one of the best matches on the card. But John Cena, even though he won, he did a lot in this match to make Bray Wyatt look a beast. And Bray Wyatt made as good a showing of himself as we've ever seen. The WWE made Bray Wyatt feel like a big deal in this match, because the Wyatt family was involved and they were a presence. Yeah, I can speak. Presence. But it wasn't just, okay, Bray Wyatt looks badass because him and two other guys triple team Cena. It wasn't that. He held his own with John Cena throughout the majority of this match. John Cena being freaked out by the spider walk, for example, was a nice spot. And here's something a lot of people don't consider. They booked Bray Wyatt versus John Cena to look like it was all about Bray Wyatt, which it should have been, even if you consider the entrances. Because John Cena has had some weird and wacky and some would say wonderful entrances at WrestleMania. The gangster entrance, the entrance with the 100 Cenas doing this, and they had the band play him out one year. They had the weird entrance when he fought The Miz, which I just watched the other day, where he's got the choir, like the gospel choir, singing his entrance music, which was super... Why are you beeping at me? Which was super awkward. John Cena had a regular turn on the music, turn on his Titantron, and run to the ring entrance, whereas Bray Wyatt not only had the knife dancer dancing around the fire doing a bunch of like tribal voodoo, typical New Orleans type stuff, but then they went to live, the guy, and I don't know his name, guys, I wish I could go to it as a reference, the guy that does Bray Wyatt's entrance, his band was there, they had masquerade masks on, the singer was painted up like a skeleton, there was a very, very creepy vibe created when the Wyatt family came out, and that entrance, that vibe, that importance, that bigging up, if for lack of a better term, was given to Bray Wyatt, and John Cena's entrance was made to look very simple by comparison. That helps Bray Wyatt, and that's phenomenal. Cena did enough in this match and that it looked like his win at the end was a fluke. He did enough in this match to make Bray Wyatt look like a beast overnight. And this match, even though I would have loved Bray Wyatt to win. You guys know that. You guys know anytime Cena loses is going to make me a happy boy. But he didn't need it, because this match was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I would borderline say this was my favorite match of the night. I really want to know what I would put up against this to say that, oh no, it wasn't as good as this, but screw it. I'm going to say it. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena was the best match of the night. Okay. What do we got to talk about next? We got to talk about what everybody's angry about. What everybody got their panties in a wad about. Taker versus Lesnar. And guys, I've been watching wrestling a long time. I am as opinionated about The Undertaker's streak as anybody else. I have the same opinion as everybody else. Everybody has that conversation where it's like, if The Undertaker's streak match had to end, or if The Undertaker had to lose a match in the streak, and the streak had to end, it should go to this guy, but the streak shouldn't end. Like, we all have those conversations. But this match was sad. This match was just sad, guys. All the hype that went into Lesnar versus Goldberg 10 years ago, and the disappointment we got that night was trumped in spades by the disappointment in this match. Lesnar was rough and awkward with the Undertaker. Undertaker just looked sad. And I hate saying that because I have so much respect for the guy, but it was just sad. Taker looked weak. The match sucked. The entrance was awesome. The entrance is always awesome for the Undertaker. Coming out, all the smoke and mirrors, all the, you know, he's got the big beard and he's looking very demon-ish. The 21 caskets with the 21 WrestleMania streak victims' names all on them, and the one opening up for Brock Lesnar getting struck by lightning, catching fire, was all very cool. And it's just the entrance ended, and that was it. And there was nothing of note after that. Three F5s later, and the streak is over. And I'll say this: I wasn't in the arena. I can't say for sure what the feeling was like in the arena, but I do know that in the room, me and Steph were watching WrestleMania, and there was a lot of awkward silence for a long-ass time. Because, and I've watched it since. I came home, I downloaded it, I've watched it again and again and again to see if it gets any easier or any more believable. It just doesn't. You don't believe that referee's hand coming down the third time. You don't believe Lesnar getting his hand raised victorious. You don't believe Paul Heyman running around uttering the words, "You beat the streak." You don't believe the graphic that comes up on the Titantron that says 21-1. And I was trying to explain it. I was trying to explain it to my buddy Big John last night as we had some spicy chicken fingers when I got back into Canada. Let me tell you about my shitty travel conditions another time. That's another comment for another video. But I've got a buddy of mine who I usually get together with for some munchies or some drinks either before or after I go to the States. And we went out, and he doesn't watch wrestling, but I'm trying to explain to him the vibe of what happened at the end of that match. And trying to explain it to a non-wrestling fan is obviously a challenge at the best of times, but I kind of summed it up like this. When bullshit happens in the WWE, we let them hear about it. When a bullshit win happens, when Cena steamrolls somebody, when somebody that really deserves the push doesn't get it, we let them hear it. We let them hear it loudly and proudly. When that 3 count went down, I promise you, and if you were anybody that's watching this video can hear the sound of my voice, was at the show, put it in the comment section below. Try to explain to me what that was like. What the vibe was like at that point, because from the looks of it on television, you could have heard a pin drop. You could have heard somebody sneeze in the back row. I swear to God, the only thing I heard in where Steph and I were watching this, I could have heard the cars running down the road 3 blocks over. There was such an awkward silence, and it was just, you didn't want to believe it. And I know I'm sort of belaboring the point here, but it's just, it's the sense of, even as we went on to the next matches, you're like, that didn't just happen. That can't have been how we wanted the streak to end. Now, as the days went on, people have had various theories and whatnot. There was a theory going around for a little while that it wasn't supposed to happen, that Taker was just way too worn out and didn't get his shoulder up in time, whatever. To which I say the referee would have found a way to do something in that case for the streak. To which I say they wouldn't have had the 21-1 graphic ready to go if that was the case. People that think that the people that are pissed off that it's Lesnar, I get it. He's a part-timer, but people getting all rabid on the internet and trying to make a point by over-exaggerating their point, and oh my god, Lesnar, it's a fucking part-timer, this is fucking bullshit, da 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 da. I mean, it would have been kind of bad if Cena got it, but at least it would have been a full-timer. And it's like, no. Stop right there. You had a good point. You don't like the fact that the streak ended. But don't bullshit. You would have been just as pissed off if it went to Cena. Just as pissed off if it went to Batista, or Orton, or Sheamus, or anybody else. Like, if they had given it... I don't even think people would have forgiven it if it had gone to Daniel Bryan at this point. And we all know, like, how everybody's sucking the Daniel Bryan D right now. But... really, realistically speaking, don't say stupid shit like that you know you don't mean. I get it. I don't think the streak should have ended. And honestly, I go back to the word sad. If this is how the streak was going to end, and if it had been decided for sure that the streak had to at some point end, I wish they had given it to Punk last year. For a lot of reasons. It was a better match. 20-1 has a better ring to it than 21-1. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else. On the flip side of the coin, if they had given Punk the streak, he'd still be here. For sure. Like, let's not be hasty on this. Lesnar, what's he going to do next? Like, we don't know. We don't know if he's coming back. This could have been his last match. He could take the streak and flip everybody off and tell them to go fuck themselves. Like, we've seen through Punk how easy it is for people to just walk away. If Lesnar's thing was to come, get the streak, and then fuck off and go back and do something else or whatever, then I don't know. But I'm not really bogged down by as much as some people. I mean, I am. It doesn't make any sense that it's Lesnar, but I'm not really bogged down by who did it. It's the fact that it happened. And no matter what WWE does now, like, people are saying Cena versus Taker was supposed to happen next year, and Sting has been teasing that he's coming at WrestleMania 31. And I agree with Preston from Wrestling Paradise. It's like, anybody that's worried about Cena versus Undertaker or Sting versus The Undertaker, or what I really wanted to see, which was Wyatt versus The Undertaker. I mean, the way they presented Wyatt tonight, if Wyatt had taken on The Undertaker, I almost would be able to swallow it, But, like, Preston said it in his WrestleMania views. Like, anybody that was looking forward to Cena Taker or Sting Taker, like, what the fuck's the point now? And it's so sad. And like I say, if any of you have ever heard the phrase "in like a lion, out like a lamb," that's The Undertaker's career if this is his last match. Like, for somebody that carries so much respect and so much of the history of WWE and wrestling as a whole, to end like this is, I don't care how repetitive I sound, it's sad. And that's all. I gotta get off this, because it's gonna bring a very... Come on now. Let's just tear off the way we're supposed to tear off. There we go. I don't want to bring down this video any more than I already have, because it's sad. And unfortunately, despite the rest of this fantastic card, that is what this WrestleMania is going to be remembered for. This WrestleMania, if I can be symbolic for a second, is going to be remembered as the funeral for Undertaker's career. And that's sad. The Divas Invitational was great, and you know what? God bless all these girls, because they had to follow the end of the streak and try to make people give a shit. At this point, I'm not even gonna lie, I was watching the show by myself, because my company left the room, and you know what? Rightfully so, if that's what you feel like you gotta do. The Divas Invitational, Vicky Guerrero introducing them and getting her one last laugh in at AJ because she's so sure that AJ is going to be defeated, kind of sealed it for me that AJ is going to win. It wasn't a horrible, for a big pile of people Divas match, it wasn't that horrible a match. It was really good. The ones that WWE are focusing on got what they needed. Natalya got to look good. Tamina, AJ herself, obviously. The Bellas, Naomi. all got to look great in their own way, in their own deserving sort of slots, I guess you could say. We teased a bit of a feud between the Bellas, Nikki hitting the rack attack on Brie, which could lead to something if they put any effort of booking into it whatsoever. The breakup of the Bella Twins could be interesting, and yes, me from a year ago is going to come find me now and strangle me for saying that, but you know what? It is what it is. My girl won. And just seeing her saunter over to Vicky Guerrero with that smug-ass smile on her face and get her belt back, that's it. That'll do for me. That'll do it. Bryan versus Orton versus Batista. Again, it suffers from the big dark cloud of how predictable it was. The RKO Batista bomb combination through the announce table looked boss. I'm just going to put that out there. Triple H, you know, coming back once again and contributing to the, you know, Daniel Bryan struggling against all odds storyline, making the match basically 3-on-1 and a sledgehammer, was great. Bryan was overbooked to hell. I'm still glad he's the champion. He got the sledgehammer shot on Triple H. He got a suicide dive on Triple H, somebody else, and Stephanie, which, you know, is a bit of a comeuppance for Stephanie, which none of us really thought would happen, because you can't really have male-on-female violence, and they don't play enough up on Brie being Daniel Bryan's wife for Brie attacking Stephanie McMahon to be a thing, do they, really? But it was nice to see Stephanie be at least involved in that little suicide dive spot, and obviously, as much as I've bitched about, and guys, I said this from the beginning, as much as I've booked about the way we got here, I'm ecstatic for Daniel Bryan. I'm glad that we have a wrestler holding the wrestling championship. Please do not ever let me, or let my criticism of the booking, the criticism of the story, the criticism of how we got there, negate the fact that I'm immensely happy for Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan deserves, he's busted his ass, for sure. Real life and kayfabe, he has busted his ass. He deserves that belt in any way you could possibly... Sorry guys, this chair is still broken, it's going to squeak, it's going to do its thing. In any possible way you could possibly discuss as to whether or not Daniel Bryan deserves the belt, he does, obviously. I just wish we'd gotten there in such a way that didn't feel like he was slammed down our throats. Is that so bad? I'm happy for the guy. I am. Deluxe Man, you can stop plotting my funeral. It's fine. You'll live. You got your big markout video, and you know what, man? Honestly, as much as I shout out Deluxe Man, I'm going to do it again here. Deluxe Man, you are one of my favorite guys on YouTube. You are one of the best friends I've made in the YWC. Daniel Bryan is your guy. Live it up. I am happy for you. Go celebrate. Do whatever you want to do. Cheers, buddy. Hopefully, Jeff Hardy comes back one day and I can have a moment like that as well. Go check out Deluxe Man and his review of WrestleMania with the casual viewer, whose actual name I don't remember, which is unfortunate. The Raw after WrestleMania. I do not have a play-by-play for Raw for sure. I have bullet points for the Raw afterwards. Let's talk about Batista and Orton suddenly being on the same page under Triple H's leadership. We're really building a nostalgic evolution type feel. Obviously, they both want shots at the belt, but Triple H got them together on a different goal on Raw, gave them a match against the Usos for the Tag Team Championships, and they kind of, in their response, buried the Tag Team Championships because they, fuck that, we don't want that. We want the real gold, the gold that matters. We don't want the Tag Team Championships. And it was fine, but they got a match against the Usos, and they just fucking destroyed the Usos because they can. Oh, yes. The Wyatts defeated Cena, Sheamus, and Big E, which is fine because I like Big E, but Sheamus and John Cena are overbooked to hell, and they're both booked like Superman. And Bray Wyatt, he didn't even really need it after WrestleMania, because like I say, he looked boss even in defeat. But if you want to say that he got screwed, he got his... everything came back to even on Raw, because he and his boys got to defeat not only the Intercontinental Champion, but John Cena and the Ginger John Cena from SmackDown in one match. So that's, you know, there's a bit of the evening of the keel there, which is even more why I'm comfortable giving John Cena the credit that I've given him for his match at WrestleMania, which is fine. Emma and Santino defeated Fandango and Summer Rae again, which mostly focused on Emma versus Summer Rae, who are both fantastic women's wrestlers in their own right. I've heard that they are actually splitting up Fandango and Summer Rae. I don't know if this is true or not. Apparently, I'm about to watch SmackDown. Apparently, they've got Fandango a new dancer, and Summer Rae is going to actually focus on being an in-ring competitor, which is great. She's got her own entrance, which is great. She's got her own music, which is great. So to have her push on as an individual competitor rather than a sort of a sidekick or a sideshow to Fandango is good for her. Like, they worked well together. Absolutely. She contributed to his character. Absolutely. Hopefully the next girl to take her place in that role will complement him the same way. But happy for her if she's going on to maybe compete for the Divas Championship against the champion AJ, or is the champion AJ? Hold on and see. It's an okay enough match. Santino wasn't horrible. Fandango, he's not anything spectacular, but he's kind of one of those things that you watch and be like, yeah, it's lame, but I like it anyway. Heyman and Lesnar come out and they cut a "We Defeated the Streak" promo, and I've got to no reaction, and I don't mean that they didn't get any reaction from the crowd. The crowd was fucking rabid all through Raw, and these are the Raws that I love watching. These are the Raws where it's like, I wish I was right there. Because I've been to Raws in Toronto where the crowd's been dead, and it's just like, I could be watching this on TV. This is not even nothing but a thing. You know what I mean? But when I say they cut the Streak promo to no reaction, I was really hoping that somebody, like, I didn't think The Undertaker would be there. I didn't think The Undertaker would have an impact on this show, but I was hoping somebody else would cut off Heyman, and that would lead to, you know, next time Lesnar decides to be around, this is who he's going to fight next. We didn't get anything. So Heyman, for all his great promo work, it didn't really go towards anything this time, which is kind of unfortunate. Van Dam returned and beats Sandow. Van Dam, when he signed his contract a while ago, said, if I've understood this correctly, and if I've read this correctly, you know, the dirt sheets being as reliable as they are, he signed a contract for that first little spurt that he was here that ended with him being with Ricardo, which was awkward, and he was going to take a break, and then he was going to come back for a longer stretch, and this is the beginning of that stretch. Great match with Sandow. Sandow continues to get absolutely slaughtered in the books, doesn't he? I got nothing. Cool to see Rob Van Dam. I don't think he's going to, you know, get back up to, like, world title status, but, you know, he's one of those guys that's fun to have on the roster. It's like, I mentioned Jeff Hardy a second ago, and me wanting Jeff Hardy to have a moment like Daniel Bryan had at WrestleMania. I don't think he needs that. Like, Jeff Hardy is like Rob Van Dam in a sense that he doesn't need to be a champion. He's just a fun guy to have on the roster. I mean, especially if he came back as Willow, but now I'm fantasy booking. Bad News Barrett debuted and defeated Rey Mysterio. So all three of the super family that are left, because Kelly's not in the company anymore, but all three of the super family, Cena went down, Sheamus went down, Rey Mysterio went down, and finally Wade Barrett, under this new Bad News Barrett moniker, came out strong and defeated one of your heroes. Oh yes. Alexander Rusev debuted and destroyed Zack Ryder, because he can. Oh yes. Warrior came out and cut a promo, and I'm going to get to this in a second, but he came out and thanked the fans in his own weird way. Even when my heart stops beating, if what I've done keeps your hearts beating, then I will live forever. You guys, there's a lot of people in the change room with Warrior Spirit, and you guys will be the ones to choose the next WWE superstars. Great stuff, and a great message, really, to pass on to the crowd. You have a power, you have a voice, kind of like a Yes Movement type of idea. I'm not saying he was out there pushing Daniel Bryan, but the ideology behind it was very much the same, and it was really cool. And it was really cool how he came out, and before he said anything, he put on a Warrior mask, and it was all good. Very nostalgia. This was one of the most fun things for me, because I didn't watch Raw right away. As I said, still in the States, still hanging out with Steph. We went off and did our own thing. I was going to watch Raw later on my phone, because I can. But I was interrupted at one point right as Raw started. It was like, you're going to hate me if I spoil something for you, but guess what they're going to do? And it was about this segment here. AJ came out to brag. She's interrupted by Paige. Oh yes. Paige comes out, she says, I'm out here to do what nobody else in that locker room wants to do, and that's congratulate you. And she's sitting there, and she's, for the badass that she is on NXT, she's kind of looking really, really intimidated, kind of shy. Genuinely looks like she's out there to pay her respects to the champion. AJ Lee says, well, no, if you're, how dare you interrupt me, da-da-da-da, we're going to have a match tonight. And she's mocking her, and mocking how she would have no chance of beating her. He's like, I'll even put my title on the line. And it's like, okay, let's telegraph this finish. They squabble for a little bit. She locks in the Black Widow, which Paige counters into the Paige Turner, and Paige is the new women's champion. And I'm happy about this. And people ask me, Spaz, how can you be happy about this? I thought AJ was your girl. AJ is my girl. AJ is my girl, whether she's the champion or not. What I would have been pissed off about at WrestleMania is if she had just lost it in a big pile of people matches, like, here's a mess, and here's somebody that won. It wouldn't have meant anything. Her 290 whatever day reign, that was kind of like starting to get like CM Punk's, let's be real, wouldn't have meant anything. Instead, they have her come and brag about making history at WrestleMania, defending the Divas Championship for the first time ever at a WrestleMania, successfully against 13 other Divas, basically the whole roster, and then coming back on Raw, on the post-WrestleMania Raw, which is always a big deal, as the still reigning, defeating, conquering champion, and then to have that actually mean something when her defeat goes to somebody new, somebody that you want to introduce with a big bang, like Paige, her championship reign, her successes from the night before, all carrying so much weight, did so much for Paige in one night. Did more for Paige on Raw than it would have done for any of those other useless bitches that would have won at WrestleMania. That is why I am okay with Paige beating AJ. And we're getting a great feud out of this. You know this is not a one and done. This is going to be a great feud because they're two genuine wrestlers, not like the Bellas and Funkadactyls and fucking Eva Marie useless twit. But no, it was great. It was fantastic. And obviously AJ's going to go nuts. Anybody who watches NXT knows that Paige is nuts. This is going to lead to good shit. And even if she wasn't the champion, even if she wasn't interacting with AJ Lee, Paige is on the main roster now, which is fantastic and long overdue. Adam Rose got 2 vignettes tonight because he's coming to Raw. Bo Dallas got 2 vignettes tonight because he's coming to Raw. Adam Rose is an interesting character. Adam Rose spent most of his NXT time as Leo Kruger, which was interesting enough, gave me a chance to see what he can do in the ring, which is a lot of phenomenal stuff. The Adam Rose character looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be somebody to go against Fandango, though, really. Like, this character is not going to be a world champion. And in 2 or 3 years, if he is, I'm going to eat crow, and that's fine. Bo Dallas coming up to the main roster, I have no interest in whatsoever. I cannot be paid to give a fuck, and the abacus to count the fucks I do not give would fill this room, would it not? So, one up, one down. Cesaro comes out to receive the friggin', what do you call it, the Andre Trophy, which he actually was presented with at WrestleMania, but we're going to present it again because we need a segment. He comes out, still to the Real Americans music, and still with Zeb Coulter. Zeb Coulter tries to make the acceptance speech for him, saying, you know, this guy's a Zeb Coulter guy, and I'm like, okay, more telegraphing. Cesaro says, well, no, I'm actually not a Zeb Coulter guy. I'm actually a Paul Heyman guy. And Paul Heyman comes out and cuts wicked promo against Zeb Coulter about Cesaro, about how Cesaro is the Swiss Superman. He's not a real American. He's the Swiss Superman, and he's now to be referred to as the King of Swing, which obviously got huge King of Swing chants. Swagger came out, tried to jump Cesaro, broke the statue, which led to a match where Heyman is hugging the broken bits of the statue. Cesaro is owning the fuck out of Swagger like is long overdue. Cesaro, I guarantee you, by maybe not, will be at least in the world title picture. Give him this Andre thing. Give him the rub from Hogan. Give him, you know, the typical breaking away from his partner storyline. Give him Paul Heyman as a fucking mouthpiece, and give him the God-given talent that he's been showing us in that ring since he's stepped into it. This guy is going to be a beast, and he's going nowhere but up. Fan-fucking-tastic. Triple H books himself in a World Championship match with Daniel Bryan on Raw, because why the fuck not, is basically, you know, Triple H lost a #1 contendership match. Clearly that makes him the #1 contender. Fantastic. But there's dissension. There's dissension between Triple H and The Shield. There's dissension between Kane and The Shield, especially when Kane reveals that Triple H ordered the, you know, 9-on-3 beatdown on SmackDown a couple weeks ago. So what we have is Bryan coming down for the match, and Orton beating the crap out of him, and Batista beating the crap out of him, and Kane coming down to stop them so that he can beat the crap out of them, and then Triple H coming down for his match. Then we have The Shield come down. The Shield stares down Evolution, more or less, and they proceed to beat the living crap out of everybody, and there's huge stare downs, and we're gonna get one of two things out of this. Either there's going to be The Shield and Daniel Bryan versus Evolution and Kane, or there's going to be Evolution versus The Shield and Daniel Bryan is going to go on and face Brock Lesnar, who's the only other logical #1 contender at this point. Which is, either one of which is fantastic, and it's making Extreme Rules have endless possibilities. Why is the phone ringing while I'm trying to do it? Really? I'm not answering it. You guys can listen to it ring. Tuesday, we find out that the Warrior passed away. And people speculated drugs. This Nancy Grace bullshit that's going all over the internet is fucking unreal. But it's a happy and a sad sort of end to the story if you think about this guy who's been estranged from the WWE for so long, made peace with whatever his demons were. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to know what his demons were. Whatever they were, he's made peace with them. Whatever the demons were between him and the WWE, I don't care. I don't want to know. He's made peace with them enough to be in the Hall of Fame. Went to the Hall of Fame, got recognized at WrestleMania, got to basically say what was a goodbye on Raw, and passed away the next day. It's almost too perfect. It almost sounds like the ending of a really sad story, but in a really sad way, there's something about it that's almost fitting. I'm not saying I wanted the guy to die by any stretch of the imagination. Rest in peace, and thank you for all your contributions to the wrestling world, to WrestleMania specifically. But it's just, it's almost sad irony. And somebody said on Facebook the other day, they were talking about how sad the Ultimate Warrior passing away was, and they made an interesting point, and the last line they put in the post, I don't remember who it was, I think it was somebody on Tweetov or Wrestlemania X or one of my groups, but they talked about the Warrior, they basically gave him a bit of a fan's eulogy, and the last line of this thing was, hey guys, I guess this really puts Undertaker losing the streak in a bit of perspective, doesn't it? And you know what? That sounds like a bitchy statement, but it really does. Like, we're mad about the streak, and it's horrible, and we can disagree with it till the cows come home, but there are bigger things at play. Is that a fair thing to say? Anyways, I was about to turn off the camera, but there's another page. Oh yes. So guys, ultimately, for the week surrounding a WrestleMania that was, according to everybody, doomed to be a failure. It was going to suck. It was going to be horrible. Why would we even watch this show? I'm not even going to watch. I'm not watching wrestling anymore. Let's look what we've got this week. Bryan is the man. Now he's the champion. Wyatt, thanks to Cena, which is the bizarre thing, looks like gold. Shield are super face and super over, and they're going to have a rivalry with Evolution, which is great. The streak ends. Not so great. Cesaro becomes a Paul Heyman guy and gets a huge WrestleMania moment, which is fine. Bad News Barrett, Alexander Rusev, and Paige all debut on Raw. Paige, in a huge moment, becomes the Divas champion. Rose and Dallas are coming up soon. One's great, one's not so great. RVD returns. AJ looks like boss at Mania, makes history, and her loss, like I said, actually meant something. And sadly, this week or this couple of days of wrestling awesomeness ends with the Warrior passing away, which is incredibly unfortunate, but doesn't change the fact, guys, that all that happened in 3 days. All that happened in 3 days. And for everybody that was going into WrestleMania talking about how dead wrestling is and how everybody, like, they were so sure WrestleMania was going to suck, and this is 30, and how can they have a 30th anniversary of WrestleMania that's going to suck this bad? Even with the bad, guys, wrestling has turned a page. There's a changing of the guard happening, and I know that's a cliche that a lot of people are using. A lot of the young talent are getting over. It's not John Cena's heyday anymore. It's not Triple H or Randy Orton or Batista's heyday. It's the heyday for the Shield, for the Wyatts, for the Daniel Bryans, for the NXT upstarts, for Paige and AJ that get to stick up above everybody else. For a guy like Cesaro, who, you know, everybody was mad about dwindling in a tag team, who's now going to be a superstar. This past week in wrestling did more for more people, made more superstars, gave more people the rocket up their ass and the moment they needed to be fantastic than, I don't know, in the last 5 years at least. This has been a phenomenal week in wrestling, and I haven't watched SmackDown, so it's not even over yet. I'm going to leave you guys with this. These have been all my WrestleMania thoughts. This is my WrestleMania recap and recovery week. So, I hope you enjoyed it. I've rambled all over the place. I'm really excited, and when I'm excited, I tend to veer off more. a couple of things I want to do. I want to send a quick shout out to Abel in Puitov and Dave Anderson in the Wrestlemaniacs, who always do a great job helping me promote these videos. I want to send 2 shout outs to my groups, both the Breakers, which I'm reassociated with as of the beginning of this year, as well as my secondary group, the Wrestling Realm. You guys are great. You guys have been helping me get these videos out a lot. The Road Signs series is over, so I'm going to need new graphics for my channel soon. Anybody that has any ability to throw graphics together, the road signs graphic that you saw at the beginning of all my road signs videos was actually done by Dave Anderson from Wrestlemaniacs, which is awesome, and I didn't thank him as much as I probably should have, but dude, thanks for that. It's amazing. Anybody else that does good graphic design that wants to help me throw some more graphics together for whatever this is going to be now, get in touch with me either in the comments, look me up on Facebook, all my links are in the description below. Even if you want to, like, Skype me or tweet me or whatever, I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, you're going to get like generic photos from Raw as my entrance thing, because I can't do graphics to save my damn life. I don't know what my videos are going to be for the next little bit. I don't know whether I'm going to go back to doing strict Raw reviews. I don't know whether I'm going to go back to doing strictly topical videos. I'm going to try and do more Q&As this year. It's not going to be a weekly or a monthly thing. It's not going to be as full as what guys like the British Fist and Nature Girl 30 do, because I don't have the time, honestly, and I know that sounds like the cop-out answer that everybody gives. I really don't have the time to be doing a Q&A a week, plus whatever actual content I'm putting out that week, but at this point, I might do one before SummerSlam, before Survivor Series, maybe before Night of Champions, maybe before Money in the Bank. So, like, one every 2 months or so. So, guys, start getting your wheels turning. Get me some questions for that. Other than that, I've rambled quite long enough. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all my conversation going. Guys, tell me. Give me your honest reactions to everything that's happened this week. If you think I'm off my rocker, tell me. If you loved what I've loved and hated what I've hated, tell me. If you've got Undertaker memories you want to share, if you got Ultimate Warrior memories that you want to share, if you got other memories from the Hall of Fame, other memories from WrestleMania, other memories from Raw, something that I've left out, throw it all down in the box below. Keep those conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.
You're a freak like me.